Call to order the meeting of the Lake Mills City Council for September 1st, 2015. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Fritsch? Here. Mr. Kirkovich?
Here.
Mr. Shar?
Here.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Grundon?
Here. Correction and approval of the City Council minutes for August 18, 2015. Do I hear a motion of adoption or correction?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Call the vote, please.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Abstain.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch? Aye.
Item 4, correspondence. Ed, anything?
I had a individual today stopping to regarding the Klein agenda item to support it, and that's been basically it.
Thank you.
Other than, of course, what we all received on our emails.
Okay, and Mike will address that.
Yeah, and, sorry, I received the same phone call concerning the Klein property, and also some emails concerning speeding again down in Brookstone, and I know we've got some information in front of us about that also.
Diane?
Yes, I had several people for different things. One person stopped me to ask some questions about the farmer's market. I also got the email about the Brookstone speed, which I guess we'll discuss under something else. And I did receive an email from one of my constituents expressing their concern about the utility price increases, which won't be on the agenda tonight because it's going to the Public Works Board first, but did want to acknowledge that I received the email. And other than that, just general positive. I had a couple people say that they were happy with the public meeting we had down at Waterhouse Foods a little while ago, and also that they are watching the TV program, so they appreciate having it so that they can watch it.
All right, I too, emails about speeding, Brookstone, a call about item G on the agenda of the Klein property, a couple of questions about resurfacing in Brookstone and some on the CP Avenue, but pretty quiet all in all.
And I too had the same email and correspondence. And Steve, are you going to address the Brookstone issue that handout, or?
I can, a little bit, I can talk about.
Okay,
Put it in your report.
well, we'll wait for your report coming up soon here. And brings us to item 5, questions and public comment. And seeing none, or do I? Okay, let me read my spiel. Questions and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items on the agenda unless the items are subject of a public hearing. If your comment pertains to a public hearing, you are asked to hold your comments until the hearing. Public comments may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state opens meeting law discourages actions by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments, and fill out and sign the sign-in sheet provided on the podium. Mr. Doyle?
My name is Patrick Doyle, 325 East Washington Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin.
I am speaking on behalf of Leonard Klein and the East Lake Street Storage. It's a small business owner and co-owner of Doyle's Dogs, Doyle Group Properties, and Corner Antiques. I support the expansion of their storage business. Storage is a valued community, or a valued commodity in this community, whether it be private person or a business owner, whether it be Lake Street Storage, Rock Street Storage, or Rock Lake Storage. To my knowledge, there's a waiting list in this community. We're waiting for things to be built. I heartily recommend approval of their expansion as a positive influence for this community, something that the community needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Good evening, Jeff Riggleman, N6573 Shorewood Hills Road. The last 3 of the last 4 years, I've been the leader of the Boy Scouts in town, Boy Scout Troop 148, and I'm here to give my support for Mr. Klein's initiative. Over these last few years, DeVore Tool has provided a lot of free hours of labor and material to our troop in regards to Eagle Scout projects and the yearly dunk tank that we have in town here. Little does the public know, it takes a lot to keep that pickle barrel going every year, and Leon and Paul from DeVore Tool do all the work every year to keep it running for us. Lastly, his contribution to the troop doesn't end there. He contributes to the Cub Scout pack as well. And I have a quick thing here from the Boy Scout organizational lead from the Post, the Legion, that I'd like to read. On my behalf, I would like my letter to be read to the City Council members. I, Tracy Messerschmidt, would like to express my support for Leon Klein. I have had the opportunity to know Leon Klein over the years during my time as a scout leader for PAC 136 and for Troop 148 here in Lake Mills. When the PAC was in need of a storage shed due to an extra supplies and materials, I went around to various storage facilities and inquired about renting some space. The prices were too high to justify for a nonprofit organization. Then I came to Leon Klein and talked to him about our needs, and he immediately offered to help out the PAC. He was very generous and gave the PAC a storage shed at no cost. He has shown his generosity over and over again as he continues to allow the PAC the use of the storage shed at no cost to this day. Leon has also been very supportive over the years to the scouting program and recently donated his time and materials at no cost to a recent Eagle project here in the city of Lake Mills. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing Patrick?
If I could just add one more thing. Hot dog cart repair people are not a dime a dozen out there. And Leonard is someone that we've had step in several times when something went down on the cart and he just said, bring it by. We'll do whatever we need to do. And they do. It's like, when do you need it? We'll make sure it's ready for you. And that's the type of person we need to support in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, we'll close questions and public comments at this time and move on to item 6, City Manager's Report. Steve?
If you looked at your online, there's the city manager's budget address, the city budget summary, the Lake Mills General Fund budget for 2016, the Lake Mills utility budget for 2016. There's the Glacial Drumlin Southside Spur award letter from the DNR, and then the check register. I also want to go over a little bit about, we met with Wisconsin Department of Transportation last Wednesday to discuss Highway 89, and it was basically about As you remember, they wanted to go back and study their staging and see how much additional cost they would have in staging. They came back, they talked about the area from Pinnacle south to the end of the project, basically down to Topol or County Highway A.
It's a little hard to hear you.
They it gave us the indication that they knew that they would have to pour in several different pours to be able to get people across that area, but they were going to they basically were going to build a new road east of the existing road, tear out the other road, and then as they poured it in, they would have to pour half of Sandy Beach Road and then allow people to access from that half, and then so they would do that for, you know, Sandy Beach Road, for the car wash, for the feed mill, for Topol's Road. They would have to go through that process every time where they pour half of it and then leave the people cross at the old roadway, and then when that got hard enough, they dig out the remaining old roadway and and they would allow people cross on what had been newly poured. So it was a pretty staggered set of processes. They were moving the street quite far to the east. They had two 10-foot lanes that would be on the far east side where they would keep traffic moving through that area during the whole construction project. That's 10 feet is pretty limited. So it'll be pretty slow traffic. I'm pretty sure it will be a long bottleneck. But they said that was basically at a cost of about $84,000 to them. We could have picked it apart. I think that they were pretty light in their estimate. But that's pretty much what they were saying they were going to offer us to do CP Avenue was $84,000. They didn't talk about the staging at the fire department and how they were going to handle that. They did ask about if there were any other ways out, and we did mention that you probably could push Veterans Lane out around the south side and out to Ferry, or you could come out by a private drive on the other side, that those were a couple options. I got the impression they felt that that would be at our cost. They also asked us if we'd be willing to move the fire department on a temporary basis to another site. We had said that we would consider that. I did talk to Todd, and he didn't think that it would work under the conditions that we have with how the fire department responds. You would need more full-time people to be able to cover that. So he was concerned about that. They also backed off on any assistance with a detour through the city. That's all now on our nickel. All our signs, all our maintenance. We would have to heavily monitor traffic running through the city, trying to find their own detours. Obviously, if we get a truck down on that south end trying to get through those 10-foot lanes, they're going to have to back up and turn around. So we're gonna have problems. So there was some discussion on, you know, if we had to have police out there all the time, or if it would be better just to let them get down there a couple times and have to be towed out of there. That would spread pretty fast and keep people from driving their trucks through there. So those are some of the options that were discussed. They are going to hold a public hearing. They're actually going to be at the next council meeting and to discuss the historic district issue with the council. So that'll be on your next agenda. They're also looking at having a public hearing sometime in October. She sent me a list of dates for potential public hearing in the building. I'll have to sit down and see what dates work. But they were basically going to start talking about some of those other issues. Senator Fitzgerald's office did not attend the meeting, but I did send Cindy all the information that I had on the meeting. So I'm assuming that she's been in contact with them. But it wouldn't hurt for you guys to contact Senator Fitzgerald's office and let them know where you're at. Brookstone seal coating is done. Didn't go quite the way we thought it would go, but it didn't go too bad. I know that Mike asked, why is there no parking for a week? And I said, only God knows when the county's going to show up. They actually showed up pretty close to when they said they would show up. It took a lot longer than they said it would take. They said 2.5 hours. It took 8. Some of that was because they had a couple truck breakdowns.
Yep, there was a semi-delay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was kind of one of the problems that they had. So they stayed and got it all done in one day, though. 9 o'clock, they were out of there, I guess. I did notify you already that we received the South Side Bike Trail grant, 50% of what was requested. We had originally requested $28,000, with the school kicking in another 10, 15,000 to be able to construct that project. We're down, instead of 45,000, we're down to $30,000 now. So we're trying to look and see if there's some other options we have for getting that project done, some other funding options, or some different construction processes. But we're working on that.
Steve, can I interrupt you just, on the bike trail, I thought that was no cost to the city.
With the whole grant.
If we got the whole grant.
Oh. And we only got,
14.8.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 29, a little over 29, and we got 14.8. So the question is someone else going to step up and help fund it, or are there some other methods that we can use for constructing the project? So that's the things we're kind of working out internally.
Okay.
We did get a split. The reason that happened is we tied for 4th, which is the last position. So they took the money that either one of us would have gotten, split it in half. So they got half and we got half. So I'm assuming that maybe one of them is going to sit back and figure, I can't do it for that, and send the money back. So I don't want to. And then there are some other groups in the city that have indicated they would help, and really we could probably do the project in the cold weather with our bulldozer and get most of it done ourselves and keep it in that cost line. So those are things we're evaluating to see if we can get it done. So. The Brookstone speed issue. I provided you the chief's report. He spent 4 days out there. There was no one that got a ticket. They were all within the normal range that we would expect to see in a traffic area. I sent you a document about counterintuitive issues with traffic, noting that if you put a stop sign out there, it's likely you're going to increase speeds, not reduce them. And that is proven over and over and over again. That's a pretty solid engineering number as far as issues that go on. So I don't recommend, you guys could do what you want, but I don't recommend putting in a stop sign. From what the chief tells me, the speeds are pretty normal. He's willing to run a couple more of those surveys for you and see what he comes up with. But I wouldn't at this point recommend putting in a stop sign.
And it looks by his report, that was random, 4 days.
Yeah.
Leaving for school, work, early mornings, nights. I mean, he kind of went all over the board. And 32 was the max. It's the max speed I see, right?
Right.
All right.
I had a request for the beach fecal coliform data that we had. And so I did produce a report for the individual that gave all the data for 12, 13, 14, and 15 on fecal coliform testing at all our beaches. I don't know what they did with it. They may do some interesting analysis. I guess we'll see what happens. It looked pretty random to me, but I do have all the data. If you guys are interested at some point in time, or I can provide that to you. I've also fielded questions this week on the trailer park lease renewals. Obviously, they're all starting to head south and want to know where they're at. I've basically told them it's another one-year rollover while we look at the issue. The sandbar lease, which you told us we can negotiate, so I've just been kind of telling them, get what you need and get back to me. Prospect school parking. All those ordinances we passed, they couldn't remember exactly how that went, and they thought we had done some things wrong, and so there's been some back and forth on how we're going to have that set up. And then Paint the Town is a Arts Alliance Main Street project that's run into some issues, and we've been trying to work with them and get them set up so that they can get their event taken care of this year. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Steve. Moving on to item 7, acceptance of committee minutes. We have before us the Library Board minutes of July 20th, 2015, Joint Rock Lake Committee, July 7th, 2015, Public Works Board, June 9th, 2015, and the Housing Authority meeting of June 23rd, 2015. They'll go on record as read. Council Business Board Committee appointments, I see none. That's correct. And Misty, would you read the miscellaneous licenses, please?
2015 to 2017 tavern operators license applications from Mercedes Wood, Michelle Burkhardt, Laurel Danielson, and Morgan Olson.
Do I have a motion of acceptance?
So moved.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
It's been requested that item G be moved in front of item C, so we'll, now if, Missy, if you could read ordinance 1151.
Ordinance 1151, amending sections 10-3-2-A, official zoning map, City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin, CSM 4127-20-142, parcel 246-0714, 1823-001, 142 Enterprise Drive. The City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, does ordain as follows. Section 1, Section 10-3-2-A, the official zoning ordinance and map of the City of Lake Mills are hereby amended to zone the following described property from PI, Planned Industrial, to I-1, General Industrial. Property location, Lot 1, CSM 4127-20142, 142 Enterprise Drive, parcel number 246-0714, 1823-001, Klein & Klein LLC. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent with or contravening the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage and publication as provided by law.
And this was the third reading. Do I have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
And you have in front of us the, a strong recommendation by the Planning Committee for adoption. Also, we've heard testimony from former members of the Planning Committee as well as former council president also endorsing it and the public. Do we have any discussion on this? I know we've kind of beat this thing to death. If not, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Okay. Going back to item C, this is the discussion decision on the capital improvement plan. Steve. This is yours.
This is our normal capital improvement plan process, and every year we basically produce a 5-year plan, so that kind of schedules out and looks at what we were going to be working on, but what it really does is put in place what we're going to do for 2016. because we have to start working on those. We actually have to start doing surveying and other items, and then be able to start some of the financial issues, because East Lake Park Place does require a special assessment process. I don't know if the school and the state will sign off, or if we have to go through the full process, but that's an issue. East Lake Park Place will be the primary one in 2016. Prospect Street is on there. The stormwater associated with both. East Lake Park Place has sidewalks, has a pretty substantial water main project.
And that's all the sidewalks that, see, that's school board, the DNR, and then I think there's 3 properties?
There's there are 2 apartment buildings
Yeah,
at the corner of Meadow Ridge Court, one on the east and one on the west side of Meadow Ridge Court at East Lake Park Place. And then there are 2 houses right at the intersection of Main and East Lake Park
and
Place.
those are both corner lots, so they would not be assessed, is that correct?
They'd be assessed something, not full amount.
Okay,
Yeah, it's there's a reduced amount.
okay.
But though, those are the primary capital improvement projects that are in this budget for this year. There's some electric ones. They're primarily running from this building straight south to the school district, which then ties into the project that loops around the south side. But that's what we're doing here, is primarily that one. It also helps us with all the new streetlights on South Main Street. So are there any questions on the projects?
Well, what I ask you, I guess we're gonna have to, talk to the chief, and let me fill the rest of the council in, is that?
That's not part of this. That's part of the capital
I stand-
equipment budget.
I stand
That's
corrected.
Yeah, that's not even
No, it's
in
not
this.
even-
We can
okay.
work through that at a study session. This
Okay.
this is mainly just capital construction projects. So, East Lake Park Place, Griffith, Wallace Park, the concession stand.
Yeah, and is Wallace, was that whole, it was budgeted at like a quarter, is that all for concession and paving?
No, the paving is supposed to be done now.
That should be done this year yet?
Yeah. I don't know how to say this. We've had that scheduled for 3 years now, and we have it scheduled, and I think we're gonna get it done this year. Normally, the county puts it on one of those when we get there and we have time types of deals, because they give us and I think we'll get it done this year. But we've also kind of protected ourselves, because normally all the water main patches that we need to have fixed throughout the course of the year are open. We've actually contracted Wolf to do those, because we don't want to put too much on the county. We just have one project for them, and then Wolf will finish the rest up for us, because that way we don't end up with all our eggs in one basket.
And at Wallace, is the concession stand on the asphalt? Is that, that can't go in until the paving's
No, the
done?
concession
Or is it
stand
off to
is actually between the 4 ballparks. It's right in the
Oh,
middle
it's
of that.
kind of in the center
There are
there?
4 ballparks that,
Yeah,
it's right in the center of that.
okay.
There was some debate, because the rec department is paying for a pretty substantial portion of it. There was some debate as moving it next to the bigger diamond, which is used by the JV
Yep.
baseball team, but the rec department said no, they were more interested in having it at the other location. So the last conversation I had, which, how those change weekly, that was the location.
Well, you do sell a lot more Gatorade to 9-year-olds than you do to,
And my bad is that we had our discussion before we even read the motion, which is motion 15-9-1-1. And Misty, if you would, I'd
Oh.
appreciate it. Get me back on track.
so did we not actually have a discussion? We didn't have a discussion, did we?
There were just a lot of questions.
Okay.
City Council Motion 15-9-1-1, approval of 2016-2020 capital improvement plan. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, pursuant to the authority conferred by the statutes of the state of Wisconsin, has established certain standards and procedures for determining capital improvement projects within the corporate limits of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin. And whereas the City of Lake Mills established policies for determining which projects shall be constructed annually. And whereas the City Council has received certain documents and information regarding capital improvement projects recommended for construction. And whereas the city manager, consulting engineer, and city staff have made recommendations concerning approval of said plan. And whereas the Public Works Board reviewed the documents and information and determined they are generally satisfactory and in the best interest of the City of Lake Mills. Be it therefore moved this first day of September 2015 by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills that Section 1, the city manager and staff are instructed to take such actions as necessary to implement the 2016-2020 capital improvement plan. Section 2, the Public Works Board has reviewed the plans for the City Council and made recommendations regarding said capital improvement plan and does hereby recommend approval of the 2016-2020 capital improvement plan. The City Council does hereby approve of the following Public Works Board recommendation regarding the 2016-2020 capital improvement plan and does hereby authorize the council president to sign the motion.
And do we have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Hey, Steve, clarification, are we gonna, is this adopting the whole 5-year plan, or it's just this year, or next?
It doesn't really adopt the whole 5-year plan. The only one that's firm is
The next-
2016.
Right, okay, so that was just for clarification on.
Right. Now, this one's a little bit different in the fact that, well, East Lake Park Place has to be done before South Main Street.
Right.
And then South Main Street and Mulberry, we've signed agreements with the state, so those are probably pretty tight.
Sure.
But the other ones, in fact, we should probably discuss 2017 is Brewster Street. That was the one that we would drop off if we had gotten enough money from the state to do CP Avenue. Well, it doesn't, based on the conversations I've had so far, it doesn't look like we've had enough. So I haven't made any changes to that. CP is not included in here anywhere. I haven't done any calculations on that anywhere. So that I wanted to let you know that 17 would be the drop dead date. We'd have to have that in there. And based on what they've given us so far, I'm not even going to make the efforts until there's someone saying that there's enough money to do it.
Yeah, if there is, I don't know where it's at. Any discussion? Ed, anything?
No.
Diane?
Nope, I'm okay.
Steve, you all right?
Yep.
Let's bring it to a vote.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Okay, item D, discussion and decision on bid award for contract 3-2015 Department of Public Works addition and renovation. And gotta bear with me for a minute here. Okay, this is motion 15-9-1-2. Misty, if you would, please.
City Council Motion 15-9-1-2, accepting the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the Department of Public Works addition and renovation, Contract 3-2015. Be it moved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin as follows. Section 1, that the bid received from McGill Construction Company, Inc. for the Department of Public Works addition and renovation, Contract 3-2015, for the base bid in the amount of $2,413,300 and an alternate bid number 1 for $28,308 is hereby approved and accepted. Section 2, that the city manager is authorized to execute all agreements and to take such actions as necessary to execute said bid. The city council does hereby approve awarding the contract for Department of Public Works addition and renovation, Contract 3-2015, to McGill Construction Company, Inc., for the base bid in the amount of $2,413,300, and an alternate bid number 1 for $28,308, for a total amount of $2,441,608, and authorizes the council president to sign the motion.
And do we have a motion of acceptance?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Steve, anything to add?
Well, yeah, there's probably a lot that should be added. We're looking at approximately a 6,400 square foot addition to and renovation of the existing Department of Public Works building. We've been working on in conjunction with the other light and water building now for probably 5 years. We had an opinion of probable cost of $2,190,900. So you can see the bid was over that. We bonded early. So the bids, the actual bid for the base bid was $2,413,300, and then there were 2 alternate bids, which add another roughly $50,000. The building has been in the process. We have borrowed money. We went out for bids. I tried to determine whether it was similar to the dam and that we got high bids and that it would be to our advantage to go out and rebid. It does not appear that that would be the case. They all came in a real tight, I mean, they're on a $2.5 million project. There wasn't more than, I don't think, $100,000 difference between all of them, which means that they're probably a pretty consistent, strong bids on actual expected costs. So we came and looked at it, and I made the recommendation that we go ahead and award the bid, including alternate number 1, which is a lift, a vehicle lift. And that the additional money we add to next year's debt. This project will not be finished until 2016. It probably won't be done until June, or maybe even a little later, if I know my contractors. McGill is the same contractor, by the way, who built the light and water building.
Okay.
So I didn't have to change the motion very much from last year's. But and they have done a good job. We had one slight problem, but it wasn't really theirs. It was a subcontractor, which I don't think we'll have to worry about in this project. But anyways, I recommended that we go ahead and award the bid for the total amount. We have enough money to make all our payments for this year and right up until the time we could. In fact, I gave you 3 options for what we could do. We could reject the bids and go out for bids to see if we get a lower price. I'm assuming that we just end up with more engineering cost and no benefit in the bids. So I didn't think that was a good idea at all. So the 2 were either using unreserved fund balance or borrowing next year. Obviously, I like to maintain a certain amount of fund balance. It is a rainy day fund, and so I recommended in my manager's memo that we borrow the additional funds when we need it next year as part of our borrowing next year.
And how much are we talking about? Quarter?
It's about $248,000. Is that what it says in there?
Yes. For 2013. But then you have to add those other things on.
Right. And yes, then you have to subtract out the engineering. So it's about $440,000 more. So we need to be able to come back and pick that up next year as part of our debt. So it would carry over 2 additional years. next year, we're probably not gonna bond. We're gonna do a note. And then when we come back for the Main Street project, we'll incorporate the note into the long-term bonds. Because the bigger the bond, the better your rate. And so $1 million isn't really a very good, you don't break very, you remember when Jim was here is saying the break-even point is about $1 million. Well, let's say we take that $1 million and we finance it on a short-term note, and then we refinance it the next year and we put together a $2.5 million project, we get better rates. And so that's what we're anticipating doing next year anyway. So it would be kind of a combination of being able to split that over several years.
And so this project is going to take us how many years out in the future?
How long will the building last?
Yeah.
Oh, it should, 25 years at a minimum,
Okay,
50 with appropriate uses. It will
I
probably
guess-
last longer than that.
I guess
but,
not last, but be big enough and equipped well enough to serve our purposes and the purposes of the street and forestry department.
Well, we did the 25 years, and it was good 25 years. Now, you know, that's on growth rates and certain types of anticipations for things staying the same, which isn't necessarily always true. That being said, for, let's say the street department gets really big, we could move the parks department into their own building at some point in time. The building would still have a lot of life left in it after that point.
Okay.
The other debate is that at some point in time, it may be more valuable as a wastewater treatment plant than for parks and streets. Because to build a new wastewater treatment plant at another location gets extremely expensive. If you can leave the existing buildings and main structures there and just start separating your lagoons and your tanks, you save a ton of money. So that's a break-even evaluation we'll have to do there too. So depending on growth and timelines and those types of things, but from a long-term, could that building be used? It could easily be used 75 years for streets, parks, or one or the other.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I was just gonna say, it looks like everything went up. Steel, concrete, electrical, HVAC, everything's up, so I don't know that.
But interest rates are still down.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
yeah,
that's something.
it's ready to go.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
But-
No other discussion. Ed, you got?
I just wanted to say, I think that, and you've said that, Steve, that, I think the thing that kind of jumped out, well, the thing that jumped out at me was the closeness of all the bidders, which says that we're getting a solid bid, and not to move forward with it would just simply rerun the whole thing, would just be a cost to the taxpayer. We should move forward with it.
By the way, this is Brendan Kress. He is the engineer, or yes, the engineer. Architect. Oh, man.
That's fine.
Welcome.
I wanted to call you an engineer. The, who did the project.
Okay.
And he did the opinion of probable cost, and he could go over those numbers with you to give you a real good idea of what happened. But basically, we've had a lot of conversations about the fact that what you said, Ed, I don't think we're going to get any better bids.
No.
The question is, you know, do you want to cut something out? But we've already cut this project substantially from the original proposal to hit the certain guidelines in our charter. So this project meets those requirements as required and has been cut right down to the nils.
On the top to the bottom is 10%.
Yeah.
For the people listening. The highest bid to the lowest bid, 10% difference. And that's, I can't remember many bids that we've had over the years coming in that tight.
No. I've seen a couple where we've had two bidders within $30. but from top to bottom,
But
you know,
not
you
top
always
to
got a
bottom.
couple of those guys who come in and they're $400,000 over, you know, throwing in, particularly this time of year. You'll get guys who really are desperate for work and the guys who are just waiting to see if they can steal a bid. In this case, that didn't happen.
So if this accepted, when would we move in?
As soon as we can get the contract work done, which I figure 25 to 30 days.
Yeah,
All right.
What they want to do, and what most of these guys want to do, is get that shell up so they can work all winter long.
Get inside.
Yep.
We're in the process of trying to sell the old Parks building, right? Will there be any money from that sale to put toward the cost of this building?
No,
Okay.
that money goes to the light and water utility.
Oh, that's right, they own that.
Yep.
Forgot.
Hey, Misty, if you would.
They didn't.
They didn't, no. I'm sure they didn't.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Just a comment, then once this is all completed, we will be pretty free and clear as far as the electric owning their own property and the city owning their own property, and no more of this being in City Hall and it belonging to the utility and being in this other building and it belonging to the, that'll be pretty well all cleared up at that point. That's a good thing.
Yes, there are some issues I would say that are still out there, and
Okay.
that when we redid the phone system,
Ah,
it's pretty much one phone system. So if you call now, remember one of the issues we had when we were talking last year is you had to hang up,
and called.
called here, you had to hang up and call the light and water billing. And then if you really wanted to talk to the billing clerk, they would send you back to City Hall. Well, if that goes on now, it's all just a transfer. You don't have to call, we just transfer you back and forth. So we can transfer from this building to the old Public Works building to the new light and water building without having to use separate phones.
Okay. But that's a case of just juggling who pays what percent of the bill.
Right, that's.
That should be not
that's
too difficult.
a combination of the phone system, but it's not,
Right.
it's a,
cost savings to do it that way.
well, it's a communication benefit. I know
Yeah.
that that was an issue for us.
Yes, it was. So that's good to hear. Is that already in place? I will have to
let's-
try it out.
Let's get back on track and go
Oops,
to.
sorry.
Sorry, let's go to item E. This is motion 15-9-1-3. This is the cash flow debt analysis.
Aren't we going to leave that tabled? Because that has to come back after the Public Works Board meeting looks at it again.
Is that tabled now?
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
Oh,
it's tabled
okay,
now.
it's currently tabled, sure. All I gotta do is read
So
it.
shouldn't we should just be leaving it
We'll
tabled?
just leave it tabled, and we'll move
I-
on to,
It's just on the table, leave it there until Public Works' board is done with it.
That's
It'll be
right.
on the September 15th meeting.
thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Okay, resolution 15-33, the county library tax exemption.
Should we have them
This
read?
is resolution 15-33, if you would, please, Misty.
Resolution 15-33, resolution requesting exemption from county library tax. Whereas the Jefferson County Board has established a county library service and levies a county library tax as authorized under Section 43.57 Sub 3 of the Wisconsin statutes. And whereas Section 43.64 Sub 2 Sub B of the Wisconsin statutes provides that a village or city is exempt from the county library tax if it levies a tax for public library service and appropriates and expends for library fund as defined by Section 43.52 Sub 1 during the year for which the county tax levy is made, a sum at least equal to the county library tax rate in the prior year multiplied by the equalized valuation of the property in the city or village for the current year. And whereas the city of Lake Mills will, in 2016, appropriate and expend an amount in excess of that calculated above, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Lake Mills hereby requests of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that city of Lake Mills be exempted from the payment of any tax for the support of the county library service as provided in section 43.64 sub 2 Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution will be forwarded to the city clerk, by the city clerk to the following parties, Jefferson County Library Council and County Clerk.
And do we have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Second. And any discussion? Same thing we go through every year?
Yes. I think that number's
Ed, you
supposed to
got
be
anything to add?
156.
Oh, we
though.
can waive a tax, we want to waive the tax.
That's right. So Misty, if you would, please.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Item H, is that where we're at?
Yep.
Yep.
You're right.
Item H is ordinance 1152. This is the second reading. This is a disabled parking space at the Commons Park. Let's see if you just read the title on that.
Ordinance 1152, disabled parking space at Commons Park.
And that'll go on to the third reading at the next council meeting. This brings us to item 9, recommendations for future agendas. Anyone?
Well, we have the Thursday meeting, which is already
Thursdays,
got
yeah,
the
right,
agenda.
Thursday meeting at 6 PM.
And then we have the historic district for the South Main Street will be, the people are going to come in and do a presentation on that for you
When is that?
at the next council meeting.
Oh,
Who
that's-
is that doing that?
Well, WISDOT is doing it, but their consultant is some people from Mead and Hunt.
Is that at 6 o'clock?
No, that's at 7.
And then we have the council meeting.
That is part of the council meeting.
Oh, it will be in the council.
Yes, that, they're doing a special presentation on that topic for the city council. DOT is looking at doing a separate public information meeting on the South 89 project where they are, separate from that.
In October.
What else do we have that's around? Sorry? We have the insurance company, our new insurance company's coming in to do a presentation, give you guys information on how they're organized and what they do.
Are we going to be happy about that, Elizabeth?
Yes, I expect you'll be very happy.
Thank you.
We have the I-94 overpass on County Highway A. They're just north of Tyranina Park Road. That will be on the agenda. We get to make a decision on if we want to relocate that now or wait. And so the engineers will be in to do a presentation on that.
Relocated.
Our transportation plan, which is tied into our comprehensive plan, says that they would shift it so that it lines up with Owen Street there at Tyranina Brewery. It has multiple advantages. One is that distance from the intersection is a little bit better. It also then encourages the use of, well, it reduces the traffic issues at that Mulberry, and which is a bad intersection. And so a lot of traffic, it would encourage more truck traffic to utilize CP Avenue if it ever goes all the way through. Because then they could just run up over that and they could hit County Way, Highway A out, or there's supposed to be a north bypass around the north side of the interstate.
But there won't be on or off ramps there, right?
No, they'll never be on or off ramps
Right,
there.
it's
It's
too
too close.
Yeah.
You couldn't get them together. The next closest one would be Q, unless we
So
built
we
them.
still have the one on A, or what's the one to Milford? That's A, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we still have A, and then we'd have another one just east of it?
No, this is actually taking A and just turning it.
Taking the bridge.
Yeah, you wouldn't actually even move the north side. It would stay right where it's at, but it would turn it and shift it a little bit more to the east so that it lined up with CP Avenue. And when I say that, there are multiple different options that we can look at and evaluate. And I kind of already have my opinions on where we're at now, but I'll let the engineers do the presentation to you and see what happens.
And when is that going to be?
The 15th.
During the meeting?
Yes. And then there's a presentation by some guy who wants to talk about budgets.
About what?
Budgets.
Oh.
I'm doing the presentation, the initial presentation on the city budgets.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Is that something we need to do as a council? Or is that something he needs to do with you, and then you decide if it comes to the council?
It is him.
That is
It
me.
is him,
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, I'm doing the,
that guy.
Oh, that guy.
He's the
Okay.
guy.
You got me on that one.
Do we have a meeting for the budget work session on that?
Not yet.
third? That might be something to consider. We have the third Tuesday of September,
Fifth Tuesday?
or 5th, thank you.
Yeah, fifth Tuesday, how
yeah,
about
I
that?
think that we had talked about that one, and we kind of kept it open, kept it away from Steve.
29th?
Is there another thing that we were looking at on that date? Okay.
Alrighty then.
I'm-
If there's no other recommendations, we're going to go to item 10, which is to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.185, paragraph 1, subparagraph C, performance evaluation data of employees over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. We have a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
And a second,
Second?
and call the vote.
Mr. President, before you call the vote?
Sure.
For the listening public, this is not an evaluation meeting, but it is our scheduled, open discussion in private, but our open discussion between the city manager and the city council.
Sure.
Now the vote.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
And we'll reconvene in the small chamber.
See, now we can change things to.